The Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest is not a place that welcomes the living. It is a vast primordial expanse where ancient trees stand as silent witnesses to millennia of secrets, and the very air feels heavy with the weight of forgotten time. It is a land of knife-edged ridges and tangled deadfall, where the floor is a treacherous carpet of slick moss and broken limbs. For seasoned Bigfoot hunter and survivalist Russell Acord, this wilderness was both his office and his obsession. But during one fateful expedition, the line between hunter and hunted was erased in a terrifying, sleepless ordeal that would test the limits of his courage and redefine his understanding of the unknown. The plan, born from years of tracking the elusive creature, was tactically sound. Russell and his team established their base camp in an isolated, acre-sized patch of forest nestled at the bottom of a canyon, where a river split into two channels. This natural moat would serve as their early warning system. Anything large enough to be their quarry would be heard crossing the water long before it reached them. They were, in effect, hunkered down in a fortress of trees, surrounded by a sonic barrier. What they failed to consider was the chilling possibility that they were not the ones laying the trap. The very water that was meant to protect them could also become a cage, penning them in with something that had no intention of being kept out. The unease began subtly, a faint but persistent signal at the edge of perception. For nearly 20 hours, a deep-seated instinct told Russell they were not alone on those ridges. It was a feeling of being meticulously observed, a sensation of a silent, patient intelligence tracking their every move from the high shadows. This was not the casual curiosity of a forest animal. It was the focused, relentless scrutiny of a stalker. As the sun began to set, casting long, distorted shadows through the timber, the passive observation turned into active presence. A camera, left running, captured a dark, humanoid shadow moving swiftly across the hillside behind them. The footage was brief and ambiguous, but its implication was crystal clear. Something was running parallel to their position, matching their pace from the high ground. The strategic advantage had evaporated. In that moment, Russell articulated the feeling that had been gnawing at him all day. "I'm the only thing that doesn't fit in here," he murmured into the growing darkness, his voice a low mix of awe and dread. "I am the uninvited guest." Then, the auditory invasion began. From the left, across the very water that was supposed to be their safeguard, came the sounds that would define the terror of the night. They were footsteps, clear, unhurried, and unmistakably bipedal. The crunch of heavy feet on gravel and the slow, deliberate displacement of water echoed through the stillness. This was not the frantic splash of a fleeing deer or the clumsy wade of a bear. These footsteps were calm, purposeful, and belonged there. "It crossed the water right near me," Russell whispered, his body frozen, every sense stretched to its breaking point. The creature was close, unbearably so. Just a few feet from where he lay, it was invading their sanctuary as if it were merely returning home. The violation of their space escalated. From the canopy of trees directly above their heads, a sudden, violent thud shattered the tension. It was a dense, impactful sound, wholly unnatural, not the dry crack of a falling branch, but the sound of a heavy, solid object striking the earth. It was either something dropping from a great height, or something being thrown. Driven by a surge of adrenaline, Russell grabbed his thermal imaging scope, sweeping the dark, dense ridgeline for a trace of body heat, for any sign of the perpetrator. The screen remained a cold, monochrome green. Nothing. No heat signature, no glowing outline of a massive primate, no trace at all. The silence that followed was more terrifying than the sound itself. It was a wrong silence, a conscious silence. It felt too close, too intelligent, and terrifyingly alive. The team's conviction solidified. Whatever had been watching them from a distance was now in the canyon with them, sharing the dark. The hunter becomes the hunted. Dawn brought no comfort, only a confirmation of their fears. Russell's voice the next morning was ragged and low, strained from a night of relentless vigilance. The psychological toll was evident. Something massive and bipedal had not only approached their camp but had crossed to their side of the river. They were now sharing their small island with it. Every primal instinct screamed that they were being hunted, tracked by a presence that mastered the art of remaining just out of sight, yet always within reach. To escape the suffocating feeling of being cornered prey, Russell knew he had to regain the initiative. Carefully, he began to climb out of the canyon floor, following a narrow, precarious game trail. He was transforming, in that moment, from the hunted back into the hunter, stalking the entity that had stalked him through the long, terrifying night. His search soon yielded disturbing physical evidence. He came upon a pine tree, its roots still firmly anchored in the earth, yet its entire trunk was leaning at a severe, unnatural angle. It was as if a colossal force had shouldered into it, using immense strength to bend a living tree without fully uprooting it. This was no work of weather or a wandering bear. The forest around it was eerily quiet. No wind, no creaking wood, just a pressing, watchful silence. Nearby, he discovered another clue. A patch of wild berry bushes looked as though it had been systematically harvested. Every ripe berry was gone, stripped with a precision that was jarring. This was not the random, messy foraging of birds or the destructive munching of a bear. The berries had been cleanly plucked, a method that suggested the use of nimble fingers and discerning intelligence. To Russell, a man with decades of experience in tracking predators and surviving in the wild, the message was clear. This was the sign of an intelligent, omnivorous feeder, and the evidence was fresh. He knew, with a chilling certainty, that it was not far away. As night fell once more, the dread returned, thicker and more menacing than before. Russell found himself on a narrow game trail, the thick undergrowth pressing in from all sides. The deeper he moved, the more the woods seemed to hold their breath, creating a vacuum of sound that was deafening in its intensity. Then, the silence was broken. From directly behind him, not with stealth, but with a startling lack of concern, came the heavy, deliberate crack of brush being pushed aside. This was not the faint rustle of a fox or a badger. This was the sound of something with significant weight and bulk, moving with an intent that was neither curious nor confused. It was following them. And it was close, too close. With every nerve ending screaming at him to flee, Russell made a conscious decision to document. He flipped his camera, turning the lens to face himself, ensuring it would capture his own reactions and whatever might emerge from the darkness behind him. "There's something back there, and it is following us," he stated, his voice a taut wire of controlled panic. The presence was toying with them now, a dominant predator demonstrating its mastery over the territory. It was a psychological game, a clear and unnerving message to the uninvited guests that their presence was tolerated, but not welcome. The entity's tactics seemed to shift and evolve. Initially, it had felt like an observer from the treetops. Now, it was on the ground with them, a tangible, breathing threat moving stealthily in the shadows. The team could feel its gaze, a palpable pressure on the back of their necks. They were the intruders, the prey, in a game whose rules they did not understand, played on a field that belonged entirely to the unseen. Russell Accord's harrowing experience in the Clearwater is more than just a ghost story. It is a visceral, sensory case study in the psychology of terror. It provides a chilling, first-hand account of what it feels like when a seasoned expert, a master of his environment, is systematically stripped of his confidence and made to feel like a vulnerable intruder. It is the story of the moment the hunter realizes, with heart-pounding clarity, that he is not at the top of the food chain, but merely a visitor in a land ruled by something ancient, powerful, and profoundly unknown. The forest, it seems, has a true occupant, and it does not appreciate uninvited guests. Despite the profound terror of that night, the experience did not break Russell Accord's resolve, it forged it. For a man of his expertise, such a direct and intelligent confrontation is not a warning to abandon the search, but the very evidence that fuels it. The haunting footsteps, the strategic stalking, and the physical signs left behind are not reasons for retreat, but the very clues that confirm he is on the right trail. Acord remains more committed than ever, driven by the unshakable certainty that he was in the presence of something monumental. For him, the search is no longer a question of if the creature exists, but a relentless pursuit to finally bring it into the light, proving that the uninvited guest, in the grand scheme of the wilderness, was never the creature, but man himself.